Restart. The live event is okay.
All right, hello everybody, welcome. Sorry for the short delay. My name is Michael. I'm a current HR UFLP at Unilever. So not too long ago, I was in your shoes. Some of you may have heard from me or received an email from me. Otherwise, if you were at the Sagia Career Fair, you might have seen me there. So welcome everybody. I think it's going to be an exciting process ahead. Joining me today, we do have Matthew Randall, who is my line manager, and I'll hand over to him soon to let him introduce himself. But a quick couple of notes from me. We're just going to step through and talk to you guys about some of the selection process and the next steps in the selection process for you guys. And feel free to drop any questions for us in the Q&A box, and we will be sure to get to some of those at the end of the session. It probably won't take the full hour, and there will be a recording made available to everyone afterwards. But otherwise, thanks very much for joining us, and Matt, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Michael, for that introduction. So, hi everybody, Matthew Randall. I'm the Talent and Organization Manager for Unilever Africa. We're so happy to have you guys on the call. Just once again, apologies for the delay in the start. We just had some technical challenges. And maybe not welcome, I'd like to actually go a bit further to say congratulations. If you're on this call, it means that you are officially a part of our process. So I would like to say thank you. Thank you for choosing Unilever, and thank you for being interested in our graduate program. We're very happy to embark on this journey with you. What we thought the purpose of this call was really just to take you through the process, take you to the next steps, so that as you embark on this journey, you're really comfortable, and also just to give you a point of contact so you know exactly who we are and how you can communicate with us should you have any challenges along the journey. The call will not be a full hour, so it'll probably take about 20 minutes or 15 minutes to unpack the process, and at the end we would do a brief Q&A. Okay, so our selection process is detailed in front of you. So we have what is called higher view games. So it's basically a psychometric, it's gamification, where you would be given a link via email. You can click onto the link and it will open up various games that test your cognitive ability. So it'll be literacy, numeracy, memory, all those type of things. Those games are linked to our standards of leadership. So they're really aimed at finding a suitable fit for our organization culture. Okay, they should take around 15 minutes to do that step in the process. The second step is the digital interview step. So once you've completed the high view games, there's a certain cutoff score. If you meet that cutoff score, you will then move to the next step, which is digital interview. So in the digital interview, there will be about, there's 4 sections, there will be 3 questions, and the one is more like a case study. So in total, there'll be 4 sections, but the one is a case study. You'd be given a link as well, and you would then be asked on video to then record your responses. Those videos then come through to us digitally, and we would then screen and view your responses for those. And we will use that second interview to further then shortlist candidates to take through to our Discovery Center. The Discovery Center is the last step in the process, the final step in the process. And what it is usually what we would do is we face-to-face, we would book a certain venue and have the various groups come through in teams. There's lots of different challenges and case studies, teamwork, individual work, and the whole session is planned around a day in the life of Unilever. There will also be various interviews with senior leaders over the course of this day. So we will be doing this virtually due to the current context that we find ourselves in. I don't need to elaborate any further on that. So it will be done via MS Teams, this Discovery Center process. And then once you've completed the Discovery Center process, should you be successful, you would then receive an offer and be welcomed into our organization. So just a few pointers on next steps. So you will, in the next 24 to 48 hours, you'd be receiving an email, and the email will have your login credentials. So the password you will receive on the email and your username will be your email address. Okay, so use your username as use your email address as your username. Also, last point that I just want to mention to you is that we have certain minimum criteria for certain functions. So certain streams require an engineering qualification or a specific subject in finance, etc. So we've screened through all your applications. You might find that there's some candidates whose initial primary function might be changed when you embark on the process. What that means is that through the screening process, instead of excluding somebody from the process because they've put in a function that they do not qualify for, what we've then done is we have, if we've taken your application and channeled it to a function where we find that you do meet the minimum criteria for, just to keep you in the process as we embark on this journey. So you might find there might be a few candidates who your primary function that you've applied to, that might not be the assessment that you get, but that then we've then included your secondary option just to keep you in the process. And if you have any questions about that, just feel free to reach out to us as you embark on the journey. That's it for me. I'll hand it over to Michael quickly. So Michael's got some tips and tricks which we'd like to share with you. He's obviously been through this process last year, so he'd be able to really give you an insider's view as to how he experienced the process. And then at the end, we will open up for some Q&A. Thank you so much, Michael. You can then proceed with your tips and tricks.
Cool, great. Thanks, Matt. So as much as it's called tips and tricks, there aren't really any tricks to getting through this process. I can give you a couple of tips. A lot of people do ask, is there a way that they can prepare for this process? And really there isn't. There are obviously, there's certain things that you can do, but it's very difficult because this process does, at the end of the day, test you as a person, and we're just trying to figure out who you are more than looking for checkbox criteria. There's not one specific profile of person that this is going to be the exact boxes that you need to check in order to be successful in this process. It is really about finding unique individuals and finding out about who you are as a person. And so my first kind of tip to you guys is throughout this process, just bring yourself. Be yourself. Don't try to fit the way that you think or the person you think we're looking for. Really just tell us about who you are. The people that are in my group of graduates are all very unique, very individual people, and each of us are on the program with different strengths and weaknesses. And so really my first tip is just bring yourself. Having said that, though, obviously when you're doing the tests, you do want to try and make sure that you have a distraction-free environment. So for the games as well as for the interview, and now also for the Discovery Center, now that it's gone fully virtual, you just need to make sure that you're going to be able to be fully focused on it. I do know, so I actually did not get through the process the first time round when I applied in my final year, and actually a year later I applied again and then got through. And the first time round I didn't have the greatest environment while doing the digital interview, and that may have contributed towards my not getting through it the first time round. So really be sure that you're going to be able to block out the time and have no other distractions. Make sure that anyone who's with you in the house knows that you're recording, or people around you. As much as sometimes it's difficult to limit that, just try as best as you can to limit your environment and really create a good environment that's going to be conducive to you being able to bring your best self to that interview process. In terms of the interview process, what can sometimes catch people is, as Matt said, the digital interview, it's completely digital, so it's pre-recorded questions. You're not going to be talking to anyone live face-to-face. It's a pre-recorded question and you're going to need to record a response. What can catch people is that these are quite business-focused questions. They are scenario-based. You'll be presented with a scenario where you're expected to talk about how you would act in that situation, or if that was something that you were faced with while working at Unilever. And my reassurance to you guys is don't feel like you have to know all the answers. Don't freak out if you see that there's a question that maybe you're unsure how to answer, or you haven't been in this kind of business environment before, so you're not sure what the correct response is. What we want you to do is, like I said, we're testing who you are as a person. We're testing the way that you think about things. So just be sure to think out loud. Just talk through, if you don't know the answers, talk through what you would do to resolve the situation. Talk through and just think out loud. Don't freak out. Like I said, you've got to create a good environment. So take a couple of deep breaths. Essentially, the way it's going to work is you're going to get, if you get through to the digital interview stage, you're going to get a couple minutes to just understand the question, prepare, think about your response, and then your webcam is going to start recording, and it'll tell you when it's going to start recording. Once it starts recording, process out loud. Just tell us what you're thinking, tell us how you would go about solving it, and what you think are the important things to consider in the question, and just be also aware of the time, because at the end of that time, your webcam is going to stop recording, so make sure that you're able to fit in your answer and just keep track of how much time you have left so you're not cut short in the middle of your answer. So try and be precise to the point, but don't worry and freak out and feel like you just can't do the question if you don't know all the answers. Just talk it through. And then finally, do your research. At the end of the day, you need to know a little bit about us, about Unilever, the kind of stuff that we're doing, the brands that we have. Do your research as well into what you want to provide at Unilever. What are the things, why do you want to be a part of Unilever? At the end of the day, you're going to be successful in a company where you have the greatest fit. So it's not just about you being the right candidate for us, it's about us being the right company for you to really thrive, so that together we can work towards that vision of making sustainable living commonplace. What is the purpose that you're going to be able to bring, and the passions that you're going to be able to bring? Like I said, bring yourself, create that environment, and just understand who we are as a company and how we're going to be able to help develop you further as well, and what your aspirations are that you're going to be able to bring to the team and help drive forwards. So those are some of the main tips and tricks and thoughts from my side. If you do have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And I think, Matt, we can just head over there now and have a look at some of the stuff that's coming through.
Perfect. Thanks, Michael.
So just having a look at a couple of the questions. We've got a couple on function. So there's one question here on function change. Can I change my function during the program? So once you're in the program, Matt, I don't know if you want to just talk to that one a little bit. So once they're in the program, if they're accepted into the program, let's say they've applied through HR, such as myself, are they able to then change function once they're in the program?
So I'm just trying to really understand the question. During the selection process, or when you are in the organization and actually working here, can you change your functions? I'm just trying to get clarity on that.
It looks like they've asked in terms of both.
Okay.
So during the program and during the application process.
Okay, cool. So as the process unfolds, the discovery centers to actually select the candidates are quite specific. So you do a discovery center with the leaders of that particular function, and they would be looking at suitability for that function. But if there's really a need where you feel you've chosen the wrong option or your interest lies somewhere else, if you flag it to us, there is a possibility that we could try then link you up with the function that you are most interested in. But generally, the selection process is a process that's linear and focused and targeted at your particular function. Within the organization, once you've been accepted onto the program, it's really open in terms of you'd have a career sponsor, and that career sponsor would check you with you monthly, quite often. And if you feel that you get the right experiences in terms of your development plan and in terms of your purpose, you would then be able to change functions and departments. It's really we're really quite open and quite flexible to how people navigate their careers at Unilever. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Sure. And then is there, are people able to change their functional choices now? So they've now put in their primary function choice. You've mentioned that some people who may not qualify, so some people who applied for R&D as a first choice function, but don't have the science or engineering background, we've shifted them over to their second choice. Is there still a chance for people to now shift their functions
So
in the application process?
Yes, so yes, they are. Yes, there is an opportunity. I think what you can do is I would share at the end of this call, I'll share my email address. If there's any of you who really want to inform us of your secondary option now, that you, and where you want to change, please let us know, and then we would look to accommodate you.
Great. And then if candidates are successful, where does this program occur, and are all of the graduates placed in the Lucia Ridge head office?
Okay, so we have about 24 opportunities. Unilever is a company with a national as well as a global footprint. So it's really difficult to say where your career will lead. We have factories in Gauteng, and we have an office there, as well as in Durban. So you'd have opportunities to work. You'd probably move between those sites based on your particular role or stint. It's really bespoke for each individual. So I can't guarantee particularly that you'd work at every factory or work at every site, but you will most likely have opportunities to move between sites. And there is a strong possibility of going on a global stint. So you might be based out of the country for part of your career, if not within the graduate program, probably at a later point in your Unilever career. So no, everybody will not be based at the Lucia, but you'd probably in the program be based at the Lucia for a particular period of time. But we are very, very flexible to crafting out solutions to accommodate our talent and employees as much as possible.
Sure. And then obviously at the moment we are all working virtually apart from people within factories. And so that is also, Matt, I don't know what your views are, but I think that may also be a possibility for the beginning of the program. It is entirely possible that people may be working from home, from wherever you are, and so it may not mean moving to Durban just yet if you are from outside of the area.
Yes. So
and then
just in terms of our culture, so we really put our employees and people first in this organization. And we went into lockdown, and we closed our offices a few weeks before the national lockdown by the government. So we went according to international timelines. So we will not be rushing back to the office once we feel that we're over the peak in the country, and once we feel comfortable that the infection rates are at a manageable level, we would look to probably open up the offices. So, but we're not going to rush to it. So there might be a possibility that the offices might still be closed early in the year next year. We don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know what the future holds. So yes, it is quite likely that you could work some of your role virtually, working from home, especially in the beginning of the program.
But head office is in Durban, in Lucia Ridge, Mhlanga area, in KZN. And then, right, so we've answered that one. Would like to know, Matt, hi guys, I would like to know if the process is the same for all candidates or if it is function specific.
Okay, so I'm assuming this is a selection process. So the process, the way it's structured will be the same for everybody. But obviously, if your higher view video that you do, the video interview, it will have questions that are tailored towards the particular function you've applied for. And then in the Discovery Center, which is the third step, you would have leaders who are from a particular function. So it'll be finance directors, or it'll be R&D directors. So obviously they would then craft the way that they flow and the themes and the case studies and the work they give you. They would probably theme it around their function and their demands to see if you're functional fit. So it will have that functional flavor to it, but in terms of the actual process, the process is standard.
Sure. And then in terms of the games, is it the games that qualify? So I'm just reading these questions as I go. Will the games determine if you qualify for the interview? Yes, that is the first selection phase, and some people will then kind of be determined as a good fit, and will be able to then be progressed to the interview. So those games is the first step in the assessment, and they will determine who qualifies for the interview. Matt, can you talk at all about positions available, in terms of, they've just asked how many constituents will be taking part or selected?
I'm just trying to understand what constituents means. Does it mean how many people have applied for the program, or?
I think they're saying how many spaces are available.
Okay. So we have about 24 across all functions. So it'll be 2 or 3 per function. The functional options would have been clear on the application form, so you'd understand what departments we have opportunities available in.
Cool. And then, are there any case studies that we can practice with? So for the interviews, for the digital interviews specifically, and for the Discovery Center, there aren't specific resources, and Matt, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there aren't any specific resources that are provided to practice with, and it is very difficult for me to kind of suggest a question or a case study in that regard. I would say, just like I said, think out loud. There are some quite specific questions that it would be difficult to really practice for generally. They're very short. When we say that there's a case study question, it's still very short. It's just slightly longer than the scenario-based questions, and there's a little bit more to it. So maybe a couple documents that you have to look through, but it really isn't anything too intense compared to what you guys will be used to from university. So don't worry about it too much, but just have an understanding of the function that you've applied for, and your university degree, or even your knowledge in general, may kind of prepare you for that stuff, but have an understanding of the function that you've applied for and some of the work that type of function does. So you can have a look at the unilever.com careers page, and you will see there's different functions there, and you can kind of have a look a little bit, but otherwise just doing your research is going to be the best help that you can, in terms of the best way to assist yourself with preparing for the process. And then, hypothetically speaking, Matt, if a candidate has passed all stages, when will they receive the offer, and how long would they need to sign and send back the contract?
Okay, so look, we intend on wrapping up this whole process by mid to late October. So we're hoping that all offers would be out and that we wrap it up by that period. We usually typically as an HR practice, we typically give candidates a week to sign the offers, but I don't want to make that hard and fast. I don't know. I just need to see how the process unfolds. We might just give 3 or 4 days, etc. But typically you'd give a week. In terms of generating the offers, once you've chosen all the candidates, it would need to go to the various leadership teams to then sign that off, and then for us to trigger the contract creation. So I would say after the Discovery Center, there should be a 2-3 week lead time to an offer. That's a generous lead time. We'd hope to actually close it off sooner, but I'm just giving you the more generous lead time just to manage expectations in the process.
Great, and then there's a couple of questions about the program in itself. So how long is this program, and what happens when you finish the program? So is this something where you're then likely to receive a job offer after the program, or Matt, so you can kind of speak to that just while I carry on with the rest of the questions here. Okay,
cool. So if you are successful on this program, you have a permanent job at Unilever. So this is not a temporary type of employment relationship. The budgets we use are actual official budgets within our organization for permanent headcount. So you'd be a permanent employee in the organization. Once you successfully navigate the program, We would then endeavor to then, the whole aim is to develop you into a leader within 2 to 4 years. And if you successfully navigate it, then we would look to then promote you. So when you are deemed promotable as a leader, you might not get a management job straight away because there might not be available roles, but we would endeavor quite soon for the next management role then to place you in. So yes, it's a permanent role, and the intention is to groom you and develop you into a leader.
Sure. And then essentially this program is some of the other questions that have come through have just been about how long is the program. So it used to actually be a fixed 3-year program with very fixed rotations. Now it is very much more based on the individual. And so it's a 2 to 4 year program. And kind of the rotations that you move through are very much individually determined by you and your career sponsor as well, who is a senior level director that you get to work with personally to really kind of decide on next steps in terms of your career and your individual development. Matt, one question that did come through there was also, how do I know how I'm progressing in the program, or how do I know if I'm doing well in the program?
Okay, so this talent pool of grads is a very strategic talent pool for us. So we really put a lot of effort into ensuring that we give you the right experiences to set you up for success. Obviously, we do our bit, and we expect all our graduates to enter our program to do their bit to ensure that they are developing themselves and putting in the effort and time to grow into the leaders that we are aspiring to. You would have a career sponsor, and you'd have a line manager, an HR business partner, and you'd have connections with the talent team and the relevant leadership teams. So you'd get constant regular feedback. We do quarterly checkpoints where your leaders will check in with you to ensure that you're working on the right priorities, that you're developing yourself, that you're looking after your wellness, etc. So you would have regular points where you'd be given feedback as to what you need to continue doing if you're doing something well. If there's certain things where the mark might have been missed, you'd get development feedback as to how you need to improve, and you'd be offered any necessary support that you need to then thrive in the program. So you'd definitely, on a very regular basis, be having a view in terms of how you're doing in the program.
Great. In terms of timeframes, a lot of people also asked in terms of timeframes after completing the games, when they will then know if they've made it through to the interview. So that is close to immediate. Very soon after completing the games, you will receive feedback from those games, as well as then what your next steps are personally. 100%.
It's very automated. So the sooner you finish the gamification, then you'd obviously navigate to the next step quite soon. So we do open up the gamification for a week, and we do open up the video interviews for a week. But if you do it in the first day or two, then you'd get the video interview link very soon afterwards. So you can navigate through the process faster, even though we've set 2 weeks for those 2 steps.
And then what role would an engineering graduate be expected to contribute?
It's a very, very difficult question to answer, Michael. We have various streams within R&D, and we have various streams within our manufacturing departments, which is your factories basically. And there's various roles within those spaces as well. So there's supply chain engineering roles and R&D, research and development roles. It's quite broad. I would prefer maybe if that person maybe contacts us, and I can link you up with a necessary HR business partner to then take you to the detail of what you can contribute.
Cool. And then we've kind of covered one of the well-voted questions here is just timeline, responsibilities, movement through the organization of the selected candidates. So we've kind of spoken through that. It is very individually based. Your movements through the program, and it's a 2 to 4 year program. So we've covered that. Matt, do you want to just continue looking through the published questions here and see if I've missed any? I'm just seeing there's a lot of questions coming in that I'm working my way through.
Okay. Okay, so we've answered that. How many candidates do you have this year? I think we've answered that.
To give you a little bit of insight, so we're quite lucky, and I quite enjoy the fact that we're able to, as Matt said, we are taking in more than 20 this year, and I think that that's quite awesome. Us as a company being able to do that. In my year, there are only actually 6 of us that started this year in 2020, and next year to be able to take in more, even in times like this, I think is just great for us to be able to do.
Okay, Michael.
And then carry on.
No, you continue.
So where can we get more insight into the working style of the organization for research? So couple of sources for that. YouTube's a good one. There's obviously Unilever is a global organization, and there is a lot of resources out there. You can head over to our careers page. You can head over to unilever.co.za and check out a little bit more about our company here. Otherwise, unilever.com is also really well resourced. And if you look for Unilever South Africa on YouTube, you'll find a site there where there's also been uploaded our webinars that we did at the Sagia Career Fair. We spoke a little bit more about different functions, as well as some of the culture and some of the experiences of different graduates on the program. So you'll be able to find that stuff on YouTube under the Unilever South Africa channel.
Okay, there's a question I'll just pick up here. How many individuals do you select after the video interview? So we would select, for the Discovery Center, we'll have 50 to 70 employees go through for that.
Cool. And then there's a couple of questions about the start time of the start of the program. Is it possible for the program to start this year? When does the program start? And then as a final year student, if you don't complete, if there's a module that you aren't able to complete, will you be able to do the program while completing those final modules through distance learning if you are accepted into it?
Okay, cool. So I'll give you a standard answer, but we would deal with this case by case. But the offer that you will receive is a conditional offer. So the requirements are that you are available to work permanently from the new year, and obviously the requirements are that you have your degree by the time that you enter employment. So your offer would be conditional that you meet those requirements. But I don't want to say that you would automatically be pulled off the program should you have a subject that is dangling. We would deal with that case by case as we journey down the road. So we'd make a call in that closer to the time. But the requirements are that you have a bachelor's degree to enter our program, and we will probably kick off the onboarding and induction over the month of February. So you need to be available from February. So this is actually for our class of 2021, this process that you guys are in. We will not start any, besides the selection process and other engagements, we won't start any employment experiences this year.
Great. And then there's quite a few questions coming through about relocation. There is a relocation allowance if you do need to move provinces for the program. But again, that is going to be, we'll deal with that case by case as we get there when the time comes. But there is a relocation allowance. And then at this stage, does this mean that we've met the minimum requirements? So yes, at this stage, everyone who received this email will have met at least the minimum requirements for being a part of the program. As Matt said, that is conditional on completion of the degree, because the bachelor's degree is kind of the minimum requirement. But it is possible. Some people also said that their friend didn't receive communication. So there's a couple of factors that could be at play here. It is possible that they haven't met the minimum requirements in some way or another, and they can expect an email soon. It is also possible that there was a mistype on the form. We've had a couple of email addresses that have been undelivered, and so we're having to work through some of that, and they can still expect a communication very soon. So either way, everyone will be receiving communication from us. But at this stage, there's a number of factors that could be at play if someone hasn't received a communication yet at this stage. And then with COVID, how will the last stage of the interview process take place? So as we said, everything is going to be virtual, and I think, Matt, you did mention that it's going to be a Microsoft Teams call for the Discovery Center. And in terms of the interview process, that is just a pre-recorded thing which you can do through your browser. But the final stage, which is normally in person, will be digital through Microsoft Teams. Matt, there's a question here about needing login credentials. What stage will they be needed for? Because I've already received an email for the digital assessment.
Okay, have you received an email for the digital assessment? So the passwords will be going out by email. What was it? Did you guys maybe in the chat stream just confirm if it was the password as well?
So by my understanding, I think that it is possible that if you've already registered on our careers site, it is possible that if you've already created that profile, then you may have received something without needing further credentials. Okay. So again, there is kind of a case-by-case situation there. So some of you, I know some people have also mentioned that they received an SMS but didn't receive an email, and again, there's a chance that there was a mistype in the application form, but we will make sure that we are getting back to everyone, as I said. And then for a graduate in supply chain or an engineering graduate, is it possible to only go through supply chain or R&D? So can you stay within your function, or do you have to move across functions?
Yeah, so it'll just depend on your development journey. As I said, they would get crafted stint by stint with your career sponsor. So as an engineer, you could work within, depending on your interest and your ability, you could work within any function within the organization. But obviously, not any person would be able to work in an engineering role, because there are certain criteria that you'd need to have and certain qualifications technically to do certain roles where an engineering qualification is required. So as an engineer, you would definitely not only do roles that are linked to engineering, core engineering, you'd probably rotate, and you might probably work in different areas of the business. And we have cases where many engineers have started off within various engineering roles in supply chain and end up working in customer development or marketing as such. So it's really, once you enter the organization, it's really quite easy and fluid in terms of how you guide your career and how you develop yourself in the organization.
Great. And then in terms of, so a couple more questions about the digital interview. Questions are function specific, yes, for the digital interview. And in terms of the length of the case study, I believe that you have just under 7 minutes to answer it, or somewhere around 10 minutes to answer it. And I think you have about 10 minutes or 15 minutes of preparation time. No, sorry. In total, the case study, I think, is about 15 minutes, preparation time and answering time. So it's none of it's long. The entire digital interview process is going to take you about 30 minutes to complete. And so I think the first 3 questions take 5 minutes each. That's reading the question, hearing the question, thinking about it, and then recording your answer. 5 minutes each for the first 3, and then I think you've got about 15 minutes for the case study question. So it's nothing like crazy that you're going to need to do a huge amount of preparation for. The case study question is just a little bit more than the shorter questions that are the more scenario-based ones. Is there an equal number of candidates taken across functions? Not necessarily. I think it's quite similar numbers across functions, but it is function specific in terms of the number of candidates taken.
I have a question here around SIMA articles being supported by the organization. So we have something called a part-time study scheme where employees can further their studies within the organization. So yes, there are development policies that could help you with furthering your education. It's come up twice.
Yeah, I see there's a couple about study assistance.
Yes.
Mm.
And just to add, while Michael selects the next question, the SIMA is quite important to us as an organization. So you would definitely be given, or we would definitely be motivated to support you in getting those articles.
Cool. And then how do we prepare for the gamified test? Is it literacy or numeracy based? What can we expect in that gamified test? Is it another question was also, is it a personality test or a cognitive skills test?
Okay, so it's definitely not a personality assessment. It's more of a cognitive assessment. It is somehow linked to our standards of leadership in the organization, but it's more of cognitive testing numeracy, memory, all those type of competencies.
And then there's a couple of questions about remuneration. So again, this is a full-time position that you're a part of, and then there's 2 to 4 years of kind of accelerated development. And so there is remuneration for that. It is competitive market-related salary, so it is market-related, but quite competitive in that regard. And Matt, I don't know if there's anything you want to add there.
Okay, yeah, I see a question around salary here. So yeah, as Michael said, it is quite market related, and in my view, it's quite a decent salary for an entry level role coming in as a future leader. Just a tip, and this is just a tip for working in HR for many years, and maybe it's a lesson that you could take with you for those, even if you're not successful for this program, as you endeavor and go for further interviews at other organizations. You generally wouldn't negotiate salary and speak around money in your initial stages of a process. It's best to embark on the journey and the process and show the employer that you really are interested in the role, you believe in the company, and you really want to grow and develop, and you find that your values and what you want to be working on and your purpose is linked to that organization's ambition. That's really what you need to show in the early stages of a process. And when it comes closer to a point of going for multiple interviews or selection rounds, if you are successful, then you have a full opportunity then to engage on salary and increases, etc. And I had a choice to maybe share that lecture now to everybody or not, but I think it's quite useful because it might help you in future, even if you're not engaging with Unilever, another organization. Generally, HR professionals frown upon that question quite early in the process. So just a tip for you guys in future as you embark on your job finding and job searches. Thanks.
Cool. And then a couple of questions about the gamification. Is that also function specific in terms of the way that it's assessed? So obviously, if it's doing literacy, certain grads, I mean, if it's doing numeracy skills, certain grads might score higher on that depending on their function and qualification.
Yeah. So look, technically there might be an advantage depending on the individual, but it's not. It's standardized in a way where everybody has the opportunity to do well in it. It's not something that's so technical, like complicated mathematical equations where if you haven't done maths in university, you won't be able to respond. There is numeracy in there, but it's a very standard approach in terms of speed and the way you respond and that type of thing. So just feel comfortable that we've done the necessary tests and we've done the necessary science to ensure that these assessments are valid and reliable, and that nobody would be impacted by the gamification negatively in terms of it having biases or not being a fair selection process or psychometric.
And then a couple of questions just about confirming next steps. Yes, you will be receiving an email soon about the invite to the gamification if you haven't already received it. And then those that need login credentials will also be receiving that soon, but in a separate email. So that you can be expecting that very soon. And then will you need to complete the games on the day you receive the email? No, you will have 7 days to complete the games. And if you are successful in that, you will then also have 7 days to complete the digital interview. But obviously, the quicker that you complete it, the quicker that you will receive your feedback, and the quicker you'll be able to move through the process. I think that mostly covers a lot of the stuff that's coming through.
Yes. So we haven't responded to every question because a lot of them, there's commonalities between the questions.
Everyone will also get a link to the recording of this so that they can refer back to that. Matt, you said that you did also want to just share an email that candidates can reach out to.
Okay, so get your pins. I'll give you 5 seconds, or get a notepad out of some sort, or on your PC.
We can put it as an announcement.
Can we do it as an announcement?
Should be able to.
Yeah. Or you could feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You could just send me an inbox, and then I would then respond.
That might be the easiest way to go about it.
Yeah. Okay. So and you can see the picture. So it's Matthew Randall, and if you search it in South Africa, you should be able to pick up my profile. Randall is R-A-N-D-A-L-L, and you'd probably see that I'm the TNO manager at Unilever. That is my profile. It should be quite easy to find. Just inbox me your question. That person who had an engineering question, which I would like to unpack further. All right, I think we're coming closer to time. Michael, do we have any? We might have a minute or two just to cover 1 or 2 more questions.
Great.
Okay.
The Discovery Center, will it take the whole day? No, it'll take about 5 hours, give or take, but there will be some prep work that you'll be required to do before the Discovery Center as well. Attire for the interview. Matt, I'll leave that with you.
Hi. So look, you definitely don't have to wear a suit and tie. We are. How can I put this? We're not really worried about your dress code. It's more around your contribution for that day. But I would say, obviously, just be neat. Smart casual, but just be neat. That would be my advice to you. But we don't have a strict policy around you must have a suit and tie for your interview. Okay. So I just want to.
Your name again? Question mark. Matthew Randall, and then my name is Michael Baxter.
M-A-T-T-H-E-W, surname R-A-N-D-A-L-L. Matthew Randall. Okay, so just an FYI to everybody. So we have this. Typically, what we would do is we would go online and we would kick off the process online, and you would apply and create a profile for yourself, and then you'd get an email with your credentials, etc. This year, we've partnered with various institutions to get them to submit candidates who would like to apply, and I think some of you have applied via a form that has been circulated at your various campuses. So we've taken the information from those forms and manually uploaded it into our system. I think what's has happened is that some people have already created a profile in the Unilever system, and all their details are there. So it's triggered off an email kicking off the process to some people. But for those who have not received an email with the credentials, you would definitely by Wednesday have received an email. If you have not received an email by Wednesday, maybe by lunchtime, then you may contact, you just send me an inbox message on LinkedIn and I will look into it for you.
Great. Do we have to use Microsoft Teams in the interview process? So that's a bit of a two-part question. The first interview process will be done completely online. You won't use Teams or Zoom. For the Discovery Center, that will be Microsoft Teams. Definitely, we won't be able to use Zoom for that. You should be able to join a Teams call though from a computer browser without having to download any app. Yeah. On your phone, you may have to download an app, but using it from a computer, you shouldn't need to download any app.
Yes. And look, as we embark on this journey, and if you pass the gamification, if you pass the second round of the second step, which is interviews, at that point in time, if we invite you to the Discovery Center, we would then engage with you on what functionality your system has, do you have connectivity, and we would work a solution to ensure that you're able to participate in the process. So please don't stress about that now. Let's just embark on the journey, start the process, and we would work to support you along the process. I think for now, focus on getting the gamification done and focus on doing your higher view interviews.
There's a couple of questions here, just about how they can prepare in terms of games and interview. And like I said, there's not really a specific way that you can prepare. I would suggest just getting comfortable with interview questions in general. So something that I did as a part of my process, which it's not going to be the same, but you can look on YouTube for consulting case study questions. Those are generally quite a lot longer and more in depth, but you'll see the way that they advise people to answer those type of questions. But don't see those kind of questions and freak out. In terms of specific Unilever case study questions, it's very difficult to give because it is such a broad thing, and I wouldn't don't overthink it. Just come there with what you know, have done your research, a brief understanding, and in terms of the games, just get comfortable with playing mobile phone games that are more IQ related. So you can get games like Elevate through the App Store and just play different challenge type games on your phone. Each of the games within our gamified assessment is going to be different. So it's not like there's one game. There are a couple and they each are different and testing different things. So just get comfortable with using your phone or an internet browser for playing those sort of IQ games. So if you just search on Google IQ game, you may be able to start finding something similar. But really don't try to overthink the process. It really will be straightforward and you will be able to complete it without much hassle.
Thanks, Michael. So I feel we're coming to the end of our call now. It's now 1 o'clock, just gone 1. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Good luck with the process. Looking forward to meeting some of you very, very soon. Yeah, just let us know if we don't get the link by Wednesday. And for those who get the links, good luck. Hopefully you do well in everything. Thanks so much. Michael, anything else before we close?
That's it. Just as a reminder, you can connect with the easiest way is to connect with one of us on LinkedIn. I will make sure that I go through, and I've obviously had quite a couple of connection requests coming in recently because I've been sending out some of the emails personally. But I will make sure that I go through all of those. Connect with Matthew on LinkedIn, Matthew Randall, and otherwise you can send an email to careers.za@unilever.com. But there is a lot coming through there at the moment, and so the most direct way would be to connect with one of us on LinkedIn. Otherwise, thank you guys, and definitely good luck for the process.
Cheers. Keep well. Bye, guys.